In case you missed this, there was an interview done with Solon, who is the lead producer for both Punishing Grey Raven and Wuthering Waves. This was done at the TapTap Developer Workshop, where he does a presentation discussing some Q&A related things about Wuthering Waves and Kuro as a whole company. By the way, this isn't a summary video since I'm not entirely sure I fully understood everything crystal clear since it's all in Chinese, and I had to rely on kinda janky subtitles. But it generally made sense and I got the gist of things, and I want to share what I thought was interesting and important for us as players of the game. But I do highly recommend checking out the original video. You may take away or interpret things a little bit differently. You also get more insight on the philosophy behind Kuro for how and why they make content for us. It's really interesting and it shows they really care for the players. In fact, let me actually show you that from what Solon said in this first and most important point. At the end of his discussion, he mentions that Kuro wants to make long-term content service games, and that you need to be in the right headspace in order to achieve that. And that's money first, right? No. Wrong actually. Solon thinks that the correct mindset is to do these three things: love yourself, love the players, and love your game and team. Because if you don't do those three things, you won't have the correct mental attitude to do the gaming business long term. I absolutely love this. It's a wonderful position and view in my opinion. It's very selfless in nature, and I think that helps bring out a more compassionate and artistic view on how to look at everyone and your product. You view it as a part of yourself rather than a vestigial organ that can be cut and sold off with no regard. They place their creation, creators, and players above monetary outcome. This really makes me respect Kuro more, and all companies should have this philosophy. Make a game that shows you love yourself, the players, the game, and the team. That is what should be put at the utmost top. He also made a cute little statement earlier on at around 6:32 saying that when working on Wuthering Waves, he'd get questions from candidates about long-term expectations on Wuthering Waves, and Solon would firmly state, quote, "I think it's okay as long as we can survive, right?" That alone says a lot about how they approach things and backs up that idea that they aren't just monetarily driven, and I fucking love that. They mention too that they are acutely aware of the problems that we have been having, and he breaks down how they handle these things. He lists what those things are and even gives insight on how they approach these things and why they do it. A lot of it has to do with parting the parcels of information to make datasets to focus on what's the most dire thing, since things haven't been entirely uniform. That extends out to bugs and optimizations especially. But he also mentions how there's a lot of hands-on special meetings that are done in regards to localization, since that's been a consistent issue too. They apparently meet and discuss a lot of things on if they're accurate, does it portray what they are trying to say, and even if their expression of it is wrong.
Bow exhausted, me ready.
It shows they're very open to listening and changing, and I appreciate that. One last cool point that I thought was interesting involves Wuthering Waves, and it's about how Kuro expects to branch out to other nations and cultures. However, it's not that alone that interests me. It's how they will do it and expand upon it. Solon says, when the Wuthering Waves went to other countries and other worlds, what does it look like? The world of Wuthering Waves is in constant struggle mode, and the thematic constant is the phenomenon of sorrow in this universe. That idea is what I find so interesting because the approach is more focused compared to just simply taking inspiration from a region. Personally, I love this because part of being human is to struggle and go through sorrow. How we deal with the struggle makes our lives and the fictional lives we read and play through so compelling. And on that idea, every culture around the world deals with crises, sorrow, death, and loss differently. To make that your focus makes cultural diving much more enticing, since it's narrowing a broad idea like culture to a narrowed point in which representation can be better focused and applied to Wuthering Waves. This leads me to believing that cultures in Wuthering Waves may have a tighter cultural basis that isn't just an area, showing how citizens and civilizations deal with a lament, how they treat each other, and their customs is significantly different than only having a region that is similar, some musical motifs of that area, or skin color alone. It makes the world more complex and roots itself in our realities a bit more so we can maybe learn something from it. It's another dichotomic string in this universe that shows how we are different, yet still one in the end, and we all know pain when we see it. Anyway, go check out the original video since there were a lot of other things that I didn't cover. It's not terribly long either, so if a brain-rotted boner like me can sit through it, I think you can too. It's really cool, and if I misunderstood something because of the closed captions, then please do let me know. I want to know how you feel about this stuff too. Do you like Kuros' philosophy of love yourself, love your players, love your game? Do you like the idea of using sorrow as a main pull to show how different cultures are? I want to know how you all feel about this. In any case, I appreciate you, thank you for letting me take your time, and be safe out there.